Day 2 of Biden's hostage crisis, and today there were actual tears as House Democrats held an urgent come-to-Jesus meeting in Washington. One congressman said it felt like a funeral. Another said that's an insult to funerals. They're all starting to realize there's no easy way out.
Are you all on the same page?
No.
What do you mean you're not on the same page?
Not even in the same book.
Biden's been reportedly hunkered down, working the phones, demanding money and protection. But the problem is no one's picking up the phone. A well-connected Democrat fundraiser said it's gotten so bad, some of Biden's campaign bundlers have just given up. And now it's a staring contest until someone makes the first move. The Times says it's increasingly clear that the president is unwilling to accept the reality of his situation. He's engaging in a staring contest with Democratic leaders, and he appears to be winning. The only way to persuade Mr. Biden to accept the need for new leadership is to demonstrate that the party is no longer following him. Is it a civil war or just a Cold War? It's too early to tell. And the Democrats are afraid to shoot first because they're facing mutually assured destruction either way. So the party put Biden on the clock. He has until this weekend to surrender.
Are you personally confident that he has what it takes to not only continue this election, but then to serve for another 4 years?
Well, I think that you know, if you just wait until this weekend, there'll be more comes out. I believe that we'll be able to have a better, clear view of what's happening.
If Biden doesn't come out with his hands up by Saturday, Democrats are going to have to send in the political SWAT team. Nancy Pelosi is going to come through Biden's bunker with a battering ram. Sources tell Axios that he would listen reluctantly, but he'd listen to her. Next up, Jim Clyburn, who speaks for the Black Caucus and who saved Joe in 2020. Paired with Nancy, sources says he'd move the needle. But if that doesn't work, Chuck Schumer would have to be the one to tell him it's over. Step down or risk a political slaughter down the ballot, handing Republicans both chambers and the White House. Biden's heart remains in the Senate, and hearing this from Chuck would hit home. But if that doesn't work, there's only one person who can talk Joe off the ledge: Barack. Biden knows he owes him. He made him VP, helped him beat Trump. But he also resents the Messiah for choosing Hillary instead of him in 2016. So Biden world is warning Obama world, be cautious. Barack better not come in too hot, because it'll backfire. Only make Biden dig in deeper. Like we said last night, it's a Chinese finger trap. The more both sides pull, the tighter it gets. Biden's current strategy is to bait the party back into his corner. He's telling donors it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. This election was supposed to be about Trump, but now it's about Biden. And he has to change that fast or it's over. But the leaking makes it impossible for Biden to get out of this doom loop. Sources tell the Wall Street Journal that Biden's whole presidency has been a cover-up. Biden once skipped out on a G7 meeting with the German chancellor because he felt fatigued. The Germans even scheduled the meeting at 6, so Biden wouldn't be sleepy. But suddenly Blinken showed up to the meeting instead of Joe and announced that Biden had to go to bed. Sorry, Olaf, it's nap time. Biden reportedly also only functions from 10 to 4, and after that, who knows?
He's sharpest before 8 p.m. So say that the Pentagon at some point picks up an incoming nuke. It's 11 p.m. Who do you call? The First Lady?
He has a team that lets him know of any news that is pertinent and important to the American people. He has someone that is decided, obviously, with his National Security Council on who gets to tell him that news.
Sources also told the Wall Street Journal that during a fundraiser, Biden couldn't even remember the word veteran and had to ask staff, what's the word when you used to serve in the military? Biden's bouncers on late night aren't protecting him anymore. That's how bad it is.
He addressed concerns about his health, stating he was fine, but then adding, "It's just my brain." Oh, good. It's just his brain, and that sound is just my sphincter clenching so tight, I think I just made a diamond.
And it's not just Colbert.
Are you telling me, you are you coming to my house and saying to my face that the United States of Bruce Springsteen's America can't hold an election better than a French? Is that what you're telling me? It's 4 months. 4 months. It's 119 days. There are contestants on The Bachelor who haven't even met yet that will get married and divorced between now and the election. We have nothing but time.
A famous publicist once said, in politics, you can win when you're feared, but you'll never win when you're ridiculed. Joe Biden's now being subjected to hellacious ridicule and has never been feared. Can the president survive an election campaign without air cover from the press? Here's 45.
Well, they cover for him, and they still are sort of covering, but now it's getting very difficult to do that. And, you know, it looks to me like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego, and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to do that. It just looks to me like that's what he wants.
Donald Trump fought a civil war before he was president and fought off a coup while he was president. Now he's sitting pretty with a unified party, and the Democrats plot their own insurrection. Trump's odds get better every day. He's the first Republican in a quarter century heading into the conventions ahead in the polls. Look at that. And just breaking, the Cook Political Report announced that 6 key states moved toward Trump in the Electoral College. Democrat senators are looking at polling and having aneurysms. One lawmaker said if they stick with Biden, it could be a weekend at Bernie's situation. Now, when a dead man holds you hostage, it says more about the hostage than the dead man. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.